Ireland produces approximately 250 tonnes of honey every year domestically. That is 250,000 kilograms of honey. We import 8,000 tonnes of honey every year. That is 8 million kilograms of honey into the country. That means that 97% of honey that is sold in Ireland did not originate in Ireland. In 2022, the EU tested 320 different samples of honey, and they found that almost half of it was adulterated. Bulked up, sugar syrups, rice syrups added, chemically adjusted so it could pass the tests. That's what's on the shelves in the shops, and that's what I want to talk about today. Let me show you something. Read that. Blend of EU and non-EU honeys. That's the legal requirement. That's all they have to tell you. That honey could be from China, Turkey, Argentina, Eastern Europe, blended in a facility, bottled here, and sold with a lovely Irish-sounding name on the front. And that's the trick. The front of the jar does the selling. Nice name, an Irish name, maybe a picture of a hive and a meadow, something that makes you think that some fella in Tipperary produced that. He didn't. Turn the jar over and read the back. Blend of EU and non-EU. That's not a place. That's a legal disclaimer disguised as an origin. The new EU Directive from 2024 is supposed to fix this. It's also known as the Breakfast Directive. By 2026, they'll actually have to list the countries of origin and the percentages. But right now, today, that jar tells you almost nothing about where that honey came from. This is the bit that really gets to me. So, you see a jar with an Irish name on it, you assume that it's Irish honey. Why wouldn't you? But an Irish company can buy bulk honey from China, from Eastern Europe, from South America, bring it over to a facility in Ireland, blend it, bottle it, and sell it under an Irish name as if it's local honey. And it's perfectly legal, and there's not a word of a lie on the label. But the honey inside that jar never saw an Irish flower. I actually had somebody at work come to me delighted with a jar of acacia honey, of Irish acacia honey that he'd bought in a local shop. There's no acacia crop in Ireland. Apart from the odd specimen in somebody's garden, there certainly isn't enough acacia to make a monofloral honey. So that honey definitely came from somewhere else. And not that there's anything wrong with that. Acacia honey is lovely. But just don't pretend that it's Irish and try and sell it to people as an Irish honey. Well, here's where it starts to get nearly a little bit personal. So I keep bees on a number of sites. I harvest my honey once a year, maybe twice a year in a really good year. My bees forage on Irish wildflowers, things like blackthorn, hawthorn, the dandelion, the bramble, etc. My honey is raw. My honey is not overheated, so the enzymes are still intact in that honey. I don't finely filter it, so there is pollen still in that honey. So you, as a consumer, are getting exactly what the bees made. Nothing added, nothing taken away. That costs more to produce. Irish weather means lower yields. Some years you get a decent harvest, some years you don't even break even. The costs here for equipment, treatments, time, fuel, etc. are all higher. And it's actually cheaper to ship a container from the other side of the world with honey in it than it is to produce it here. Sometimes I go to farmers markets, and at least once, every single time, somebody is going to walk up to me and say, I can buy the same thing in a supermarket at half the price. But you can't. You can't because it's not the same thing. The jar in the supermarket was not made in Ireland. It wasn't made by Irish bees. It wasn't made from foraging on wild Irish flowers. It may not even entirely be honey. My answer is always the same. If that's what you believe, that's fine. I'm not going to argue with you. Go to the supermarket and buy the honey. But just make me one promise that before you buy that honey, you'll turn over that jar and you will actually read what's on the label. So a few times then, what I started to do was have 2 jars of honey in front of me. One was my honey, one was the cheapest honey I could buy. So every single person can taste a difference. And they're always amazed by that. The color, the texture, the flavor, they're completely different. Mine tastes like something. Flowers, warmth, a place. The other one just tastes sweet. There's nothing behind it. But here's the interesting bit. Sometimes, and it happens more often than you'd expect, some people prefer the cheaper honey. Not because it's any better, but it's because they're used to it. Pours like maple syrup, it's consistent color, it tastes the same every single time. And that's what they think honey is supposed to taste like. You see, real honey isn't like that. It's thicker, it granulates, it's set, the texture changes depending what the bees were foraging on. It's not uniform because it was never meant to be uniform. It came from a hive, not a factory. And that's the real damage that cheap honey does. It doesn't just undercut the beekeeper, it resets people's expectations of what honey should actually be. So when they finally taste the real thing, it doesn't taste right, because everything they've been eating up to that point may not have been honey. It was a product designed to look like honey at a price point that makes real honey appear overpriced. Sugar syrups added to increase volume, labs specially designed to adjust blends so that they pass the tests. Honey is microfiltered to remove the pollens so that nobody can tell where it comes from. Additives and colorings added to fake the botanical source. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This has been proven in 2022 by the tests that the EU carried out. 74% of suspicious samples were from China. 93% of Turkish samples were flagged. 100% of UK samples, because they import honey, reblend it and export it back out to the EU. And if you think the testing catches it, it doesn't. Apimondia is an organization which is the International Federation of Beekeeping Associations. They've been running the World Honey Competition for decades. In 2019 in Montreal, they introduced testing for the honey. 44% of the honeys were flagged as being potentially adulterated. They did the same again in Chile in 2023. Same result. In 2025 in Copenhagen, for the first time ever, they cancelled the World Honey Competition because they couldn't guarantee that the honey was real honey. And Ireland, producing its 250 tonnes of honey and importing its 8,000, is at the end of that pipeline. The new EU labelling rules coming in 2026 are a start. Country of origin and percentages on the labels. Traceability from hive to jar. Proper testing standards. But legislation doesn't change what's on the shelf today in Ireland. So what do you actually do? Well, the only thing you can do is to read the label. Turn that jar over and read the label. If it says it's a blend of EU and non-EU honeys, there's your answer. You don't know what's in the jar, nor do the people that bottled it. So if you want actual Irish honey made by actual Irish bees from actual Irish flowers, you need to find a beekeeper. Go to a farmer's market. Ask for the names of the beekeepers. Ask questions. Where are the hives? What were they feeding on at the time? When did you harvest this? A beekeeper will have no problem in answering any of those questions. So 2 jars of honey on your kitchen shelf. One local Irish, it has a story. The other EU, non-EU mix, it has a supply chain. You already know the difference. You just have to read the label.